Morning. My name is Denise. I'm an alcoholic. I've experienced working these steps out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous with the help of a Big Book step study sponsor, a very patient and loving higher power. I am currently working on my amends, practicing all steps daily in all of my affairs, practicing steps 10, 11, and 12. So I was not expecting to be sitting up here this morning, folks. Okay, so this is how my brain works. So when I arrived and came in, there was nobody at the table. My first thought was, okay, yeah, they just haven't gotten here yet. But you know what? I'm always late. So I'm like, there's something wrong with this picture. There's no one sitting at the table. And then I was chatting with somebody, minding my own business, and someone came up and said, there's nobody here to chair or to share. And I said, oh, well, what would you like to do about that? And he said, I'll chair. How about you speak? Alrighty then. So here we are, right? So here we are. And it doesn't matter what I think about any of that. It doesn't matter what I think. I have experience with the fifth step, so I'm qualified to share my experience, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share my experience with the fifth step. So it talks a lot about, it says here, we've been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator to discover the obstacles in our path. We have ascertained certain defects in a rough way what the trouble is. We've put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part. So the fifth step for me was an action step. It's an action step. And a lot went into the fifth step. In order to get to the fifth step, I had to do the first 4 steps to get there. But before even doing that, I'll tell you how I used to live. Before doing any work at all, I think it's safe to say I was a bit of an actress. And, depending on who you were in my life, I played a certain role to you. And I wasn't always forthcoming with every aspect of my personality or what I was doing in my life. So you get the picture, right? So doing a fifth step seemed, before I even got to doing this work, seemed like, why would I even bother? Why would it be important for anybody to know all of me? Because I lived on a certain code, or lived by a certain code, which was, I need to get my needs met at any cost, and that's what I'm going to do. I need to be sure I'm comfortable in a situation, so I'm going to tell you what I think you want to know in order for you to give me what I want. Whether it was, a physical thing that you could give me, more liquor maybe, or if it was self-esteem, you could make me feel good about who I was. So my motives were never pure. My motives were, one of self-centeredness, self-seeking. What's in it for me? So doing this work. I did a very thorough 4th step when I did my work. I did it to the best of the ability and willingness and honesty that I had at the time that I did it. And I did it with a sponsor who had done it with a sponsor, and so on and so on. I came to a lot of meetings. I needed to hear why I was doing this work. I was not yet associated or familiar with living a new way. So I needed to come to meetings frequently to hear why would I want to shed that old skin, and why would I want to live differently. And what I heard in meetings was I heard a lot of recovery, and I heard God, and I heard spirituality, and I heard peace, and I heard serenity, and I heard real life experiences and how people applied the work that they did in order to live the lives they were living today. And I was attracted to that. I definitely wanted that. I didn't necessarily want to do the work associated with getting there. I thought, no, really, so for a long time when I first got to Big Book Step Study, I sat in the very back row. I was 7 years sober when I got to Big Book Step Study. I sat in the very back row of the Saturday morning meeting, when it was over on Lincoln Street. And I sat there for 6 months, not talking to anyone. and, just leaving right after the meeting. And I thought, oh, I'm going to get better. And I did get better. I got a little bit better. I got better at listening, and I got better at consistently showing up for something. But I would go home and I would still be full of rage and be depressed about my life. Like I didn't have any real life solutions. Like I didn't know how to think myself well. How am I going to change? How am I going to become a new woman? And that's how I talked, oh, how am I going to do that? There was no easy, soft approach to my life. I was very combative. And, I was in collision and conflict with the people that I lived with, mostly my husband and my oldest son. So, it was always, I did this. I walked around, fist clenched, my nails digging into the palms of my hand. Oh, why can't people just do what I want? I'll be happy. So I had no relationship with a higher power, no conscious contact whatsoever, and no desire, really, honestly, no desire. I'm like, I was always like, yeah, I'll just, observe, I'll get it, I'll watch how they do it, and that's how I'll get it. That's how I went through my whole life, never ask questions. I'm always supposed to know the answers, I'm always supposed to have the best of everything, and this work doesn't work that way. I needed to have my own spiritual experience in order to have a relationship with my own creator, mine, personal to me. The only way I got that was from doing my own work. I was guided through this work, but it was my own experience. I had to, to discover the obstacles in my path. What's blocking me from having the experience? The freedom of bondage of self. What's blocking me from having a relationship with my creator, the God of my understanding, God that's going to free me from all of this, mental chaos and, the stuff that goes on there. And then as a result of what goes on in my head, I create that chaos in my life. So how am I going to get that? Well, I was very attracted to my sponsor. She had a lot of peace and serenity, and I wanted that, and I wanted what everybody had at this meeting. So I did my fourth step. My fourth step took quite a while, 2.5 years of mostly not writing. I don't recommend that to anybody. It's not comfortable. I was sitting in the problem the entire time I was not doing this writing. I sat in the problem and I got worse. I didn't get better. I got worse. I got more and more uncomfortable. If you've started writing and you're a little bit stalled, try to do 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day, if that's all you can do. Just keep moving forward, We want to get to the solution. What's the solution? Having a relationship with your personal God. Clearing away all this stuff, What I found out in my fourth step was, I believed a lot of the stuff that I thought, and a lot of the stuff I thought was not true. That's what I found out. And I was given some pretty goofy ideas or goofy directions as a kid from other people who had goofy ideas, and they told me, oh, do this and you'll get that. And it just didn't work out. So the fifth step. So when I was ready, when I had finished my writing, I was so happy to call my sponsor and say, I'm all done, yay! And she said, well, that's great. And this is what she said to me, that's terrific. She goes, now, if you want to do your fifth step with me, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, if I want to, what is she talking about? Doesn't she know? She's the only gal for me. Of course I'm going to do it with her. I'm like, oh my God, I'm whirling around in my head. If I want to do it with her. Because we can choose anybody. It does not have to be our sponsor. It says we go to a person that we trust, who can keep our confidence. Because I'm about to share some stuff that's, it's not very flattering. Do I want everybody to know it? It doesn't own me today. If you want to ask me any questions after the meeting, certainly I'll share it with you. It's really kind of boring, actually. But, So at that moment, she said, if you want to do it with me, I just have to let you know that I'll be out of the country for the next few months. She used to travel out of the country for her job. She was going to be away for like 3 months. I'm like, what? I'm ready. This is how I want. I'm ready. My time. I'm ready. Gosh darn it. Let's get to it, right? 2.5 years of mostly not writing, and now I'm like, let's do it. I need to get it done, right? So I said, so she said, if you want to do it with me, I'll be out of the country for a few months, and you can choose to do it with someone else, or you can wait for me to get back. Oh, really? Yuck. All right, so I said, all right, I'll wait for you to get back, and I did. And I waited for her to get back. And then when she got back, we set up weekly appointments where we would meet. She lived in Boston. I live in Worcester. We would meet halfway. We would meet on the Mass Pike. I think I'm not sure it's Natick or Framingham, that rest stop there where the McDonald's is on Mass Pike. I don't know if that's Framingham or Natick, but we would meet there. Yeah. So we would meet there. And we would meet for 2 hours each week. And she would listen to me. So the first time we met to do my 5th step was at that food court. And, I agreed to meet her at that food court to do my 5th step. When we both showed up, we sat down, and we were sitting in the McDonald's. And she said, all right, let's, hold hands and say the 3rd step prayer, and then you can start reading. And I'm like, there are people here. I'm like, there's people around. And she's like, I know. She goes, they don't care. They're not going to hear what you're saying. Honest to God. And I was like, oh, no. All right. And I said, well, I don't want to hold hands. All right. So we said the 3rd step prayer, and I was mumbling, probably looking down, like, oh, God forbid anybody should hear me doing that, And then she said, okay, now start reading. I don't know what I thought. Like, we were going to go into some secret room in the rest stop and let's just start reading. And I'm like, oh. But I had agreed to this. I asked her to meet me there. So what was I thinking? Again, there was no candle. There was no chair for God. There was no white light. There was no harps playing anywhere. It wasn't like that for me. So I started reading, and, like within a matter of seconds, like this is how my notebook looked. I didn't see or hear anybody else in that rest stop, like gone. And I just read and read and read and read. And maybe like 30 minutes into it, literally I slammed my notebook. I won't do that because that's very startling, but I slammed on my notebook and I said, really, do I have to continue? I was so sick of me in the first 30 minutes. I was so sick of hearing I'm like, oh my God, this is gross. Like, And she's like, yeah, keep reading. I'm like, oh no. And so that went on and on and on and on for months. I don't even know exactly how long it took me to read my 5th step. But, we continued to meet at that rest stop until we started to meet at the Natick Mall. And we went to the food court there. That felt nice and cushy. We had moved up to a really nice space. It's no different, trust me. Like, a food court's a food court wherever you go, right? But I'm like, ooh, we're at the Natick Mall. Oh, this is something special, But it was, it was special for me. And we sat in the same table every time. And God forbid if anyone was sitting at our table, I'd be like, there's people there. So funny. So I continued to read my 5th step. And, I have to say for me, my 5th step was very robotic. I felt very detached from what I was reading. I felt like I was just reading a story to her, like I would be reading that, like I didn't have any emotional connection to it. I didn't have any big feelings about the stuff I was reading. It was just, to get it done, if you will. My sponsor had feelings about the stuff I read. She would get emotional. about stuff that I was reading out loud to her, and I'd be like, that's weird. Why is she getting emotional about my reading? Well, I know why today, because I sponsor women and I sit on the other side of the table, and I know what that's like, because you're hearing yourself. You're hearing your own story, and you're hearing what this disease does to us, and the lengths we go to get the things that we think we need or want, And some of the stuff that happened in my 4-step was, stuff happens. Stuff happens. So some of it was unpleasant, and it's just a fact, And there was one time when we were reading that I started to get a little teary, and my sponsor said, "Oh, I see there's some melting of that iceberg in you." I was so PO'd at her for that. I was so offended, like, no, there isn't. No, there isn't. I'm going to hold on to that, I'm like, suck that tear back in. No way, But, the 5th step absolutely did what it was supposed to do. It definitely cleared that stuff. It was, being able to sit across the table, a table probably no bigger than this, sit across the table and share all of me with one person. My introduction to being, intimate with someone. That was the introduction to being intimate. What's being intimate is sharing all of myself with somebody, So, through doing that exercise with my sponsor, a woman that I absolutely trust, admired, and respected for her recovery and her God, I was able to be, as vulnerable and as present as I could be in that moment. And for that, I am forever grateful to get that first introduction, to be introduced to intimacy so gently. We'd been working on it for a long time prior to sitting there and her listening to me. We had been building an intimate relationship through doing the writing, the 3rd step, me initially asking her. It went way back to, moments before that. But to actually do all that work, for me, my God works through people. And, so she was like a representation, if you will, of what my higher power could be for me, which was kind and loving and gentle and considerate and respectful, like things that I had no experience with at all, I had been living, another way for a really long time. So, to have that experience, I'm forever grateful for that experience. So, when I was done reading my 5th step to her, we met many, 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 many times. I'm really in awe of her dedication to that process and her commitment to me, to do that for me. Because honestly, after, 3-4 notebooks of like, blah, 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 I didn't get my way again. This is so ridiculous, She stayed committed, and that was really very generous of her and very, very kind of her. And that was my first experience of somebody doing something entirely, for me, and showing me, that kind of respect. And, I've passed that along to the women that I work with. I had a really good teacher, to show me how to do that. And, today I have had the experience of listening to many 5th steps. I've been really blessed with that experience, listening to many 5th steps. And it's really a remarkable experience to witness someone's transformation, to hear how they used to be, and just clearing all that stuff out of the way so that they can, experience, have a spiritual experience, to live differently. To know that this stuff isn't who I am, it's what I did. These things are what I did because I was trying to manage my own life, and saying them out loud has really, taken all the power out of them, if you will. They don't own me anymore. I don't really, it's not that big a deal, it's really not that big a deal to talk about that stuff, and I freely talk about it now. When, I've had the experience, women sharing with me things that they thought that they would never speak out loud. That's a powerful experience when you're there to honor that for another human being, and I don't take that lightly. This work is life or death. I know what they mean when they say that. This work is life and death, because some of those secrets, those things that we're not going to share, can kill us. I can make a decision based on a thought. I think you're not going to like me because I did that. And I could end up, I could drive recklessly and kill myself or kill someone else. It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to pick up a drink, but I can make a bad decision and do something to cause myself or another person real harm. So, doing the fifth step, seems like the natural course after writing all that out. What am I going to do with that? I can't just sit with all that stuff. Now I have to move forward. It's an action. I have to give it away, and so wherever you are in this process, please keep moving forward because we'd love to hear from you. That's it for me. Thanks.